welcome to a Horror Review Sunday. This week's episode will be dedicated to John Saxon, rest in peace. So I just picked up a movie with John Saxon in it, and that is Nightmare Beach. Welcome to Spring Break, a spring break horror movie. Not a whole lot of those that I know of, besides Piranha, that's a creature feature. This is a slasher spring break movie. Now, this was supposedly directed by the guy who made Ghost House in the same year, but that movie was awful. Umberto Lenzi, this guy's like a European, Italian horror director, made all kinds of flicks in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Not a fan, but I also read that he dropped out of this movie. He, on day one, I guess said, never mind, I don't want to direct it, but it still, for some reason, says it's his film on it, like a film by. But the guy who wrote the movie, Harry Kirkpatrick, went on to direct it, and I heard it was because he said like he dropped out because it reminded him too much of something he already made. Like he didn't want to make the same movie again. So I'm curious to see what that movie was. So, anyways, this movie has John Saxon, Michael Parks, and it tells a story about kids at spring break getting picked off by a biker who is electrocuting the shit out of all of them and lighting them on fire. That's his choice of weapon. Electrocution and this wire thing that he has. I don't know the name for it, but he wraps it around him. He's strangling people. I think it's on one of the covers too, where he's like holding this wire. He only uses it once, but so that's what it's about. Just slasher movie. Guy is picking people off one by one for a reason we don't know until the end, once it's revealed, but it also plays out like a mystery. Like, is it supernatural? Did this guy come back from the dead? Because it opens up with an electric execution at a prison, and you don't know if that guy came back for revenge or something, or if there's somebody trying to make it look like he did. So, going into the positives for this movie, I really like the killer outfit. It reminds me of the killer outfit in Night School, which came out in 1981. You got the same get up there, biker looking dude with the helmet. But I like that he has his own theme music in this movie. Every time he's on screen, this like 80s rock and roll soundtrack kicks in. And I read on the back here that the soundtrack, or his little theme there, was by Goblin, the band or whatever they are, who does, Goblin does a lot of like Italian horror scores. Like it says Suspiria, Dawn of the Dead. So if you're a fan of Goblin, I guess you'll like the music in this movie too. So I really like that he has his own theme. I like how 80s this movie is. This movie is ultra 80s. This came out like 1988 or 89, somewhere around there. It says 88 on the back of here, but if you look online, sometimes they'll say 89. So whatever year, late 80s, it looks like it. So I like that his weapon is a bike that electric. He basically took an electric chair and applied it to his bike, and he electrocutes like hitchhikers and shit. It's just so funny. It's unique, and I like it. And I like the pacing of the kills. There's a lot of kills in here. A lot of them, they're all the same electrocution kills for the most part, but they're not lame electrocution kills. Like, these aren't electrocutions where they get, shocked and then it's over and done with. Like, no, when they get shocked, they like light up in flames and they're melting, their eyes pop out, like they go further than most electrocution kills. There's enough kills in here to keep you entertained, and they're all pretty good. They're 80s special effects. They're not going to look realistic at all, but they don't look that bad. Although there is one moment of like visual effects where there's like pink electric like balls coming out of this woman's mouth. That doesn't look too good, but tons of nudity. Tons of it. You got wet t-shirt contest. If it is a wet t-shirt contest, like they just go out on stage and they get their shirts wet, but then they just lift it up and then they rip the shirt off. So is that a wet t-shirt contest? I don't think that's how that works. But fine by me. Bring it on. There's so many boobs in this movie, which makes sense. It's spring break. That's what it's all about, right? Girls getting naked on the beaches. At least I like to think that's what spring break is all about. Maybe I'm wrong. And this movie has a surprisingly big scope. Like, the movie feels big. There's all kinds of people. They really make it feel big. They actually make it feel like spring break. They shot this movie on location, like in Florida. It makes it a movie that you can watch during spring break almost like an annual thing because it really puts you in the spring break vibe. I like that John Saxon's in this movie because, he's horror alumni and I think he's fine in this movie. I mean, all the acting almost across the board is shit, but Saxon's fine. But I like that his character's a little different from what we see usually from him. He's always a detective or a cop, and he's a cop in this movie too. He was a cop in Black Christmas. He was a cop in Nightmare on Elm Street. But he's always a good cop. And in this one, I like that we actually get to see him play a dirty cop. He's trying to sweep things under the rug, cover things up. He's a little shady. He's not to be trusted. So I like that we get to see a different version of that character from John Saxon in this movie. I haven't seen every movie from John Saxon, but this was the first one where I got to see him play like a bad guy. He's like this. He's like a secondary villain in the movie. And another thing I like about this movie is just all the goofiness, all the goofy random things that happen that you would just never see today. Just unrealistic character decisions and just bad acting on a level that's actually funny. Like someone's reaction to finding their friend dead and the way that plays out, it's just hysterical. Like just random things that didn't need to happen in the story, but it's in there. They mace a dog. A guy jumps into the back of their car like, "Go Gators!"
Go Gators! How about them Gators? Yeah, Gators, baby, yeah!
And then just jumps back out of the car and runs away. You got this whole like little subplot with this guy going on that goes absolutely nowhere, where he's just stealing purses and betting money everywhere. Just stealing money left and right, getting away with it, and it goes nowhere. There's just random things in here. You got this whole other subplot with this chick who's a prostitute trying to get money for like law school or I think a doctor. She's like, "I want to save people." And she gives this whole speech about why she wants to become a doctor, and she's banging all these people who look like they weigh like 300-400 pounds. They're all disgusting, and she just keeps luring them to her hotel. And it's just like something that's happening in the background. Like every time it cuts to the main characters we're following, you'll just see her in the back, like someone like leaving her room, or just her kissing them goodbye. It's just, and then of course she ends up getting picked off. So, but it's just little stuff like that. I'm just like, that's hilarious. Like, you would not see that in a movie today. But this movie's not perfect. There are some bad things about it. First up, I already kind of talked about it, the acting. It can make or break the film for you depending on who you are. Can you tolerate bad acting or can you not? But this one, it's like everybody's bad. Like everybody. They're all competing for first place on worst actor in the film. And I wasn't a fan of one of the characters, the main kid we're following, his like friend who's like the over the top like douchebag, so confident, just walking up to ladies, flirting with them, and if they say no, they're not interested, he just automatically calls them a lesbian. Like, well, you must be gay then, because you don't want to touch this. Just a despicable character. You want him dead so bad. And his acting's bad, so you want him dead even more. And I think I talked about it earlier. There's a moment of like visual effects that definitely aged the film. It was not needed. This girl getting electrocuted, there's like these pink sparks coming out of her mouth. It was just not needed. We didn't need that. You could have just had her burst into flames like some of the other victims. And the mystery of like who's doing it was not intriguing to me because I kind of already knew who it was. They try to play it up like, is it going to be supernatural? Is it the prison guy who got electrocuted? Is he coming back from the grave? Because his grave got desecrated. Somebody dug him up. So it's like, oh my gosh, he might be back. He was a biker and the killer is dressed up like a biker. But if you have half a brain, you know that that's not where it's going to go. That's just misleading you, and you know better. You know that it's going to be someone who's alive and someone who's trying to purposely make it look like somebody's back from the grave. And who would it be? It's probably the guy trying to make everyone think that. So to me, the killer identity was obvious. Very much so to me. And once the killer reveal happens, it's like a Scooby-Doo moment. They take the mask off and it's like, you! It was not an interesting reveal, like the reason why. It's just like generic reason. Yeah. And once it's revealed, the movie is like over. It just goes nowhere after that. There's no like big fight scene. No, like there's a small fight scene, but there's no like big chase. Like as soon as the reveal happens, 2 minutes later, the movie's over and the killer dies. Like, spoiler, but the way he dies, the way this killer goes out, it's so quick and anticlimactic, but I guess that might be funny and cool to some, like unexpected. I did laugh at it, but it was like, really? That's it? It's kind of lame. So yeah, I wasn't big on the third act, like that ending, the way that played out. I feel like there could have been a lot more action and more suspense there. And the first act of the movie definitely drags a lot. There's just lots of B-roll footage of spring break and kids dancing and drinking and just all kinds of just scenes that weren't necessary. It kind of drags a little bit in the first act, especially. So, other than that, I enjoyed the movie pretty good. I wouldn't say it's a terrific film by any means, but it's probably one of the better late 80s slashers out there. Just, yeah, some things about it kind of hold me back from saying it's like worth buying because it's not that great of a movie. Like I said, bad acting, some aged effects in it, and not really an intriguing mystery to it. I like the killer outfit. I like his weapon. I like how he takes people out and the effects there when people are like melting from being electrocuted so much and being on fire, their eyes popping out. Some cool kills in here. You got John Saxon, which is always nice, but not a terrific film by any means. You gotta know who you are, know what you like. So if this sounds appealing to you, definitely add it to your collection. I think it's a slasher that slasher fanatics should check off their list and watch at least once. So when it comes to Nightmare Beach, Welcome to Spring Break, I'd recommend that you borrow it from a friend, stream it, or rent it at Redbox. Alright, time for the spoiler discussion. So this movie opens up with an execution, and this guy says, I was framed, and turns out he was, and then we see all this B-roll footage during the credits of Spring Break going on, and there's this prankster throughout the whole movie. He's just constantly pulling pranks. He pulls at least 4 or 5 pranks throughout this movie. Like, he's playing dead in the pool, and then later on, he's playing a shark in the water. It's like this Jaws moment where they're like, shark, shark, you see the fin, and then this Brody guy goes out there, he starts shooting at the water as if that's gonna do anything. Just shooting at the water, and then the guy comes up, he's like, it's just a prank, gosh, can't you guys take a joke? And he says that every single time. Every time he like reveals that was all a prank, he says the same thing. Can't you guys take a joke? Clearly not. They all are pissed each time. And then like there's another prank where he's playing dead on the ground again, and then finally we see this like throat slit at like some concert later on, and he's finally dead, but they don't believe it. And just like, oh come on, get back up, quit playing. And so yeah, then we see the grave has been like desecrated. Somebody dug up the body, so it's kind of like making you think maybe he came back from the grave, but I wasn't buying that. And then this hitchhiker, she gets picked up by the killer, and he's driving her down the road. He starts speeding up, freaking her out. She's like, stop! And then he just slams on the brakes. They're at the end of the road, and he like hits this button and electrocutes the shit out of her, and she just ignites. Such a cool little weapon of his. It's very unique. Just a motorcycle with an electric chair connected. So this priest in the movie has a daughter who is very slutty. She goes up to the main character at the bar, and she just immediately is like, I'm going to take good care of you. You want to go on a walk? And he turns her down. So then we get introduced to this character who ends up being a prostitute. I didn't realize it at first. I would have to rewatch it, but she just seemed like a girl who just needed a quarter. She's like, can I have a quarter or something? And then he ends up like taking her away. And I'm like, where's this going? And then we find out she's a prostitute and she needs to bang people for money so that she can go to doctor school. She wants to be a doctor and save people. And then she ends up becoming a victim because she's a sinner, and that's the motivation for the killer. At the end, we find out it's the priest. And here's the thing. The priest shouldn't even know about her, if you think about it. How did the priest know about what she was going on, her operation at her hotel? How did he ever find out about that? We never got any scene where the priest, outside of his killer uniform, was interacting with her. So how he knew about her in the peephole closet and shit, whatever. It's just things you gotta look past. This main biker guy, one of the worst actors in this movie, and what is up with his eye? I don't know if he was doing it on purpose, but his like left eye was always like bulging like out of his fucking skull. I don't know if it's just his overacting or something. He's like, I'm gonna act as evil as I can by opening my eye as wide as it can go. But yeah, the horny douchebag friend, he goes in the alley, he's being lured by a woman. She's like, I'll have sex with you, just come this way. And she lures him into a trap. He gets his ass kicked by a bunch of bikers and then immediately gets killed by the killer biker. And then we get another prank. This prankster goes into the bar, slams his hand on the table of the bar, and then stabs his hand, and then it's like a fake hand, even though it was clearly real when he placed it there. John Saxon in this movie has impeccable timing. Twice in this movie, he like rolls in with his sirens going off as soon as confrontations start. As soon as they pull up to the bar and a confrontation is about to start between the horny friend and the secondary biker leader, whatever, the guy with the bulging eye, the new leader, I guess, there's John Saxon. And then later on, when the friend is investigating, he finds out where the bikers are hiding. He goes there, and immediately, as soon as confrontations start, John Saxon pulls up. I like how there's like a Norman Bates at this motel. He has like a little peephole in this towel closet where he's like looking at women through the peephole. And when he gets killed off camera for some reason, this is the one kill where he gets like strangled off camera and his body is somehow just standing up looking through the peephole.
You pervert! You slimy, peeping little pervert!
Just another little horror cliche. Another horror cliche in this movie is the whole walking backwards shit. I talked about that in my top 10 things that irritate me in horror movies. When victims, they just start walking backwards. It's always the same setup. It's the same scare where they're walking backwards and then eventually they walk into the killer and then they get killed. So that's another thing I saw in this one. So then this chick gets killed in the elevator. He like gets a cable from above and it like shoves it in her mouth and all these pink sparks start coming out. And somehow nobody found those bodies until like the next day or some shit. It took a while for those bodies to get found. I like that the mayor in this movie, his name is Mayor Loomis. So then the main guy, I wish I wrote his name down, but he's just the main guy. And he's one of the worst actors in this movie. He teams up with the bartender and they get in their car and this random football fan just runs into the back of their car, "Go Gators!" And then he just runs off. And we see his character a couple more times. He's at a prison cell later on. "Go Gators!" Probably the best character. So he teams up with this bartender, and I shit you not, for over half of this movie, I thought the bartender and the biker chick were the same person. When they find that body in the elevator, her head moves on its own, and then her eyes are twitching. Like, really? You couldn't get a better take of that? Like, cut, you're supposed to be dead. How are you failing at this? It's not that hard to play dead. Come on. It's the easiest thing you can do as an actor, is play dead. Just sit there. It's not like it was like a long 20-second take where they were asking her to like hold her breath for so long. It was literally 2 seconds. That's how long the take was. And that's the take they used. Just another thing that adds to the cheesiness and how bad this movie is made. And then we got Michael Parks. He's kind of a red herring. He's like the mortician and he's an alcoholic. He's constantly drinking. And then you find out it's because he feels bad about what he's doing. Like this town, just like, the mayor, the cop, just like in Jaws, they want to sweep things under the rug. Except this isn't a shark attack. These are people being murdered. And the killer is still out there. And they just want to create some patsy. They want to throw some other random guy under the bus like they did in the opening. Which, by the way, was the quickest execution ever. Like, in real life, when you get sentenced to death, doesn't it usually take years until you're finally put on that chair? Like, it doesn't happen overnight. Like, all right, you're sentenced, and then the next day you're electrocuted. I don't think it works that way. It takes a while. But anyways, looking past that. So these people, they want to find some patsy or just they want to bury the shit. No one needs to know about it. They got like 100,000 people out there just ready to be slaughtered by this maniac. And they're not going to let them know about the fact that there's a murderer on the loose. And they're going to just let these people be missing. That is awful. Like if you were the parent of that person, awful. Like you would rather think that your kid's dead than missing and not know where they are. That's just fucking awful. They buried this guy's body at some like construction yard somewhere, like some kind of factory, just buried. And somehow the friend found out the location. Like Here's another thing. There's so many things I could talk about, but this would be like an hour review. But I'm going to try to get through this. So, the main character, he basically takes Michael Parks' character hostage in his own car. He breaks into his car, puts a screwdriver to his like throat, and he's like, "I know you're lying to me. Where's my friend? I know you know something." And it's like he's going off of a whim, like a hunch. Just like he can't be 100% sure about that. But he's right in this instance. Like he was lying to him when he said he didn't know who his friend was. But he could have been wrong. He just put a screwdriver to someone's throat for no reason. Oh my gosh. So yeah. But he's just like, yeah, we buried him at this place, and he just knows exactly where to go in that giant fucking place, like where to start digging. Bullshit. And his reaction when he finds his friend's body, it's like he saw his goldfish die or some shit. Or, I don't know, just insert lame thing that wouldn't really spark much of a reaction to you here. Just when he sees his dead friend, his reaction, I shit you not, I'll probably play the clip because I can't remember what he said verbatim, but it's like along the lines of, no. Like he's disappointed, like, oh man, you invited me out here, I came out here with you, we were gonna hang out, but man, it's such a bummer, dude. It's like, what? Like, you did all this investigative work, you took a guy hostage, like you're dedicated, you're passionate about finding your friend, like you give a fuck, like you've been friends since kindergarten, and then when you find this body that's been so distastefully hidden away from society, and just, that's your reaction. Wow. You can clearly see the crew reflection in John Saxon's glasses, which I always find funny. And so yeah, then the playing dead joke. That guy's playing a joke again. And I like this kill. He kidnaps this girl in her trailer. He like hits her in the back of the head with like a tow truck hook, and then carries her off to some random location where he has like this giant like furnace, this chamber of fire that he like cranks up this dial. All the fire comes pouring out of it and just lights her up, and she starts melting. The effects there were pretty good. It's probably my favorite kill. So then the mortician, Michael Parks, commits suicide over the phone. And they pepper spray a dog. Man, that dog was just trying to protect his home. Like, they're breaking into this cop's house, again, on a whim that maybe he's responsible. And they pepper spray the dog. Such cruelty. And they are terrible at breaking into homes. Like, when they break in there, they make their presence known. They're moving shit around. They're leaving things open. They're tearing up photo evidence. Like, not good breaking in work. You're just making it obvious that someone was in there. And then this biker chick gets killed, and like I said, it's the whole walking backwards cliche. She walks into him, she thinks it's Diablo back from the grave. Like, I'm still your girl. Like, she wants to get back with him. Like, you want to get back with your zombie boyfriend that you think it's your zombie boyfriend, but it's not. And when she gets killed, it's the typical just sit there and do nothing type of kill where they're stunned. They're just frozen in shock. And she just gets the cord right down her throat and electrocutes her. Eye like pops right out. And then we get the easiest jailbreak I've ever seen on film. They just walk into the police station and walk back out within a minute. They just put a chain around this cop's throat, go back there, just walk on out. Easy peasy. Like, yeah, right. So, and then finally the prankster's dead. And then we get this whole scene where they're trying to lure the killer into this trap. So they he's using this girl, this bartender, as bait. And she's okay with that. So she's driving around in circles, I guess. But for some reason, the guy is just sitting in a car in a parking lot where he could easily get trapped in there in an emergency, and he does. Instead of just following her, like he could be tailing her, waiting for the killer to arrive, and then he could take him out. Car versus motorcycle, car's gonna win every single time, baby. But instead, he's just parked at some other random location. They got the world's largest walkie-talkies ever. But she's on her motorcycle, and she sees what she thinks is the killer, and he's following her for a while. So she calls in like, come, I think this is him. And he can't get out of the parking lot. Some assholes blocking the one-way in and out. And so she pulls over And the motorcycle pulls up, and it's not the killer, it's just a cop who doesn't say a single word to her. He just stops, looks at her, gives her a smile, and she's like, I didn't do anything, officer. I just pulled over. Everything's fine. And she's like, drives off. No exchange, just drives off. Why was he following her? Was he following her? Why did he pull over too next to her? Why was he giving her that creepy ass stare? Just so fucking random. So then we get this moment where John Saxon pulls up. He's about to attack the main guy, and the main guy has his gun on the dashboard, but it falls into the passenger seat, and he looks for the gun for like maybe 2 seconds and gives up immediately. It's like, it wouldn't be that hard to find your gun. That was just unbelievable. He's like, oh, where the fuck are you, gun? Like Trent in Friday the 13th. Just couldn't find the guns. He just ran away. And then we get some vigilante justice when the biker gang kills John Saxon. They shoot him, and I think he's wearing a vest, but then they tie chains around his feet and drag him out of town. So we don't really get to see him die, but I'm pretty sure he's dead. Because, yeah, that would kill you. So, yeah, justice for Diablo. And then we get the Scooby-Doo reveal. It's the priest, and she's like, why? And he's like, you guys are all sinners. I'm the angel, and I'm sent here from heaven. God sent me to do his work, blah, blah, blah.
I wreak his vengeance on those who flaunt his will. Everyone must die, like Diablo. Death by electrocution.
And then the football guy comes in. You know, he's supposed to be this football player, like a quarterback. Everybody makes reference of it throughout the movie. Everybody's like, hey, aren't you that guy who, you know, fucked up the game? And so he's a football player. Doesn't look like it. He's very scrawny. And at least to me, he doesn't really fit that football player, you know, body. Doesn't look like it at all. Usually they're a little bit more jacked than this guy. And he can't put up a fight for shit. This priest, who's like 55, 60 years old, kicks his ass. Like, easily. He's throwing him up against these tires. He's punching him left and right. He's got the upper hand the entire time. And then the chick has to come help him out, hits him over the head. They run away. Killer gets back on his bike and then accidentally crashes into a big old tire in the road, flies off of his bike, lands on these electrical cables, and gets, you know, karma. Just an ironic death. He's been electrocuting people. Now he's electrocuted. Payback's a bitch. And now he's dead. So it was just so quick, so sudden. Like, you didn't see it coming. You thought he was going to chase them. There's going to be this big final chase, maybe a sacrifice or something, some big, you know, crescendo at the end. But it's like, here's the reveal. Now it's over. Just it. That's it. He's dead. And then it's over. So yeah, fun time. I enjoyed it. Not the best slasher, but I can see myself revisiting this every spring break. Now let's go over my awards. The Hockey Mask Award for Best Character is the Go Gators guy, because he's just so random and he made me laugh out loud. Which will bring me to my Funny Bone Award for funniest moment in this movie. There's quite a few scenes in this movie that are hilarious, but Go Gators takes the cake. And the Clapper Award for best scene in this movie, I'll give it to the hitchhiker kill, the first one in the movie, that really set the tone for this killer and what he's going to do for everyone else. Great kill. Love the scene. It's one of the most tense scenes in the movie. Also, the hottest chick in this movie is the hooker at the hotel, who obviously does not discriminate. She makes everybody happy. The Mr. Hanky Award for worst actor in this movie is almost everybody, but I'll give it to the main guy because of his reaction to his dead friend. That's the worst performance in the movie. And the Mr. Hat Award for best kill is the girl who gets completely engulfed in flames and melts away. She's all chained up. It's my favorite kill. There's a lot of good ones in here. And the Mr. Twig Award for lamest kill will be the perv hotel guy who gets strangled to death off camera, I guess. And those are my thoughts on Nightmare Beach. Welcome to Spring Break. Put your thoughts of this silly ass movie in the comments below. Let me know what your favorite moment was, what your favorite kill was, and as always, if you like what you've seen, you can hit this like button, share it with all your friends, and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.